Hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and just here at Endagala in the middle of the forest, and thought to record a short ovada for the internet. So I thought that maybe you could start with a little meditation. So maybe you can lean forward a little bit and arch the spine, and look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can focus in on the breath. Can know when it's coming in, and know when it's going out. If we breathe in a long breath, can just know I'm breathing in a long breath. And if we breathe in a short breath, can just know I'm breathing in a short breath. And can focus in on the breath at the tip of the nose. And if notice any patterns of tension or tightness around the nose, around the face, can just let those relax. And can relax any patterns of tension around the cheeks, around the chin. And can practice breathing in and out from this area at the tip of the nose. And when breathing in and out from the tip of the nose, can be helpful to try to make mindfulness as continuous as possible. Trying to be aware all the way through the in-breath. As the in-breath turns to the out-breath, all the way through the out-breath. And as the out-breath turns back to the in-breath again. Making mindfulness as continuous as possible. And before we finish meditating, can spread thoughts of goodwill, wishing may all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And can open our eyes and do a short reflection on the Dhamma. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. So I hope that everybody is having a great day wherever it might be. And right now is the kind of rainy season in Sri Lanka. So for about a month it seems to rain pretty heavy every day. So up here at Endagala is kind of on quite a raised rock, so not so much rain. Or not, the ground isn't damp here or anything, a nice big rock. So was messaging with the gentleman Visita the other day, and he suggested a topic for a talk, which was Buddhism and technology. And so it was interesting because I was actually talking to one of my fellow monks the other day, and he said that we were talking about the monastic rules of the Vinaya, and saying that, I was saying, it's amazing that this is a law code for monks that was written 2,500 years ago, or not written, but, formulated 2,500 years ago by the Buddha, close to 2,600 now. But you can still kind of follow the whole thing today. It's kind of, maybe in a country like Canada, you have to wear boots. Countries where there's winter, originally monks weren't allowed to wear any sandals with heel coverings. But other than things that are totally obvious like that, most of basically almost all the Vinaya, all the monastic rules can be applied to the modern day. And one of the reasons for this was because when the Buddha set down the monastic rules, he didn't tend to, very often mention really specific types of situations that would only be applicable to his day. There is one rule like that where you cross into the sleeping chamber of a king, so we don't have any head-anointed Katiya kings anymore, so that rule doesn't really apply in the same way it would have in his time. But most of the rules, other than that, they tend to be based on principles, things that we still do today, like eating food, whatever it might be. Still monks go on alms round, all these various things, kind of the ways that these basic things that people do are what he tended to lay down rules around, and laid them down in such a way that they're applicable today. So when it came to his rules about entertainment and these various things, he tended to lay them down in such a way that kind of is broad enough that it still applies today. So it wasn't like don't go see this specific show with this specific actor. It was don't engage in entertainment. And so for the same thing, all those, for that reason, his directives, his kind of injunctions, they still apply today, even when the world changes and starts using like technology like the internet or phones or whatever it might be. So following the kind of principles behind these things, when one uses these things, there can be sometimes, especially with new technologies, and not unreasonable, there can sometimes be this concern that the technology in and of itself is something corrupting. So like having a phone would be something corrupting. Or I think I remember hearing back when TV first came out, a lot of people were concerned about it, that it would kind of destroy people's brains, destroy people's social skills. And some people might argue whatever it may be. And but I wasn't alive before there was TV, so I can't comment on how things were then. But the world still seems to be going along. And similarly with the internet, I was around when that first came out. And maybe a concern of a move towards kind of virtual interactions rather than face-to-face interactions and these various things. And again, these things, they may have some legitimacy to them, time will tell. But the thing about the Buddha's injunctions is that he states them in such a way that they can still be applied to a world where many people are using the internet. Many people now, instead of using, like, say, a computer, everything they can do from a phone. So the question, in the sense of the Buddha's directives, which are, like, sometimes really specific, especially for monks, like specific in the sense there's many rules that cover many situations, but general in the sense you can still apply them today. So the question becomes less like what type of technology am I using? It becomes more like what am I using this for? Although, of course, maybe there is some kind of some kind of background influence just from using that thing. That I don't know. But more so as kind of a Buddhist practitioner, one kind of looks for the principle behind it. Okay, if I'm using a phone, if I'm using the internet, what am I using it for? What's my purpose in using it? What kind of is my aim in using it? And in this way, all these various technologies, when they come about, they can be regarded less as a kind of they may be a whole different paradigm shift, a whole different change in a person's life, the whole different change in the way society operates. But when one learns to look at them like a tool, it becomes more like, what am I using this for? So, for example, 2,500 years ago, they actually didn't use books. They didn't use writing to write down sacred knowledge. I think writing was used for kind of like more mundane things like king's proclamations or like accounting and these kind of things, maybe like non-serious messages. Things that were really serious were actually memorized. And so eventually there was kind of a danger of losing the Buddhist teachings in Sri Lanka, and so they wrote them down under a particular council of Theras. And so this kind of, this writing down of the Pali Canon may be one of the reasons why we still have it today. Not to say there's almost certainly going to be disadvantages that the whole thing isn't commonly memorized anymore. But this is a kind of area where one can ask oneself, what am I using this new technology for, this new standard, this writing? What is my purpose in using it? It's kind of to record the Buddhist teachings. Similarly, if one turns on a computer, one turns on a phone, so what is my intention behind turning on the computer, turning on the phone? Is my intention to use this to grow in the Dhamma, or is my intention to use this to distract? So I think this is one of the main areas that kind of technology, at least modern technology like social media or whatever it might be, gets criticized for. And probably, again, some legitimacy to that, is that it tends to be this kind of way that people may distract themselves, spending many hours just kind of, aimlessly flipping or whatever it might be, or, aimlessly, looking at, posts or something or whatever it might be. But it doesn't actually have to be this way. If one approaches these technological platforms, whatever ones are here now, whatever new ones come out, with an attitude, what am I using this for? How can I use this to grow in the Dhamma? How can I use this in a way that's wholesome? Then the means by which one does these wholesome things, the means by which one grows in the Dhamma, that kind of matters, that kind of like the tool that one uses to do it, doesn't tend to matter so much as what one is using that tool for. So, am I using Facebook to read posts from meditation teachers? Am I using YouTube to watch the occasional, video on whatever it might be? And this is where one has to be kind of quite honest with oneself about training one's mind. It's kind of watching the intention before, going onto the internet, before using technology, watching one's mind while using it. And then also when one finishes, to make sure that one's intentions were good before, that when one used it, that one's intentions were good, and that the results were good when one finished. So I know now during this kind of time of Corona, and people not being able to kind of connect socially, I think talking to some people, I think some people who use Facebook find it kind of really helpful for that, kind of connecting with family or friends or whoever it might be that they might not be able to see in person, might not be able to talk to that often. And so this may be something wholesome. But then if somebody's spending 4 or 5 hours a day, just kind of distracting, that's something unwholesome. So I remember there was this one time, this monk made a joke because there was a talk about computer technology at one monastery I was at, and he said, well, you can kind of, it was just, the gist of what he said, the message behind what he said was you can kind of distract yourself with anything. You could kind of distract yourself with a piece of paper. You're kind of, And so, some people will, find distraction like working in a workshop, some people reading a book, some people whatever it might be. But if one is purposefully directing one's mind towards the wholesome, whether using it through a tool like the internet, whether using it through computers, or if they come up with like holograms one time, kind of like Star Trek, and you can kind of, do a holographic Dhamma talk, this might not necessarily be like such a bad thing. So all the time with these new uses of technology, one, of course, one has to consider, one lives in the world, one has to consider the implications. Okay, what if this is a big game changer for the world, for the way the world does things? How's this going to affect me? How's it going to affect everybody else? But in terms of morally, in terms of using it for one's spiritual growth, the question becomes less like, what am I using? It's like, how am I using it? How am I using this technology? Am I using it in a way that brings my mind more calm, that brings my mind more peace? Am I using it as a tool to do practical things, to do things that are necessary? Am I using it as a tool to help me grow in the Buddhist teachings? And if one is using it in these ways to help one grow in the Buddhist teachings, one using it as kind of a practical tool to maybe do taxes or send messages, then probably whatever the form of technology is, one doesn't have so much to fear from the use of that technology. One doesn't have so much to fear from the effect that it might have on one's mind. So all the time, this is the principle that one comes back to in Buddhism, is this principle of intention, or cetana. Is as long as one intends well, as long as one does well, as long as one observes the results of one's actions to make sure that they are well after intending that action, then one can grow in skillful qualities regardless of the tool. And you could dig a hole 2,500 years ago with maybe 10,000 years ago with maybe like a stone hammer, or I don't know, you could dig a hole with an iron shovel, you could dig a hole with a pickaxe, and now they have kind of all these kind of hydraulic things you can dig holes with. But whatever the means, when we're trying to dig a hole, with whatever tools we have, we use those to dig the hole, if a hole is what we need. And in the same way, whatever tools we have to grow in wholesome qualities, we try to use those tools to grow in the Dhamma. Whether it's reading suttas online or meditating with people online. I know that's a kind of, I know some people have been doing live videos, especially in this kind of time of social isolation. This is some useful use of technology. And still using it to achieve the same wholesome goals, same wholesome qualities that the Buddha set out as Dhamma for. There's the diminishing of bad qualities, the growth of wholesome qualities, and the purification of the mind. So if one uses technology in this way, then one could say, most likely, one is using it blamelessly. One is using it in a way that will bring one happiness. Okay, so leave that for reflection, and hope that everybody has a great day, and wishing you all the best.